Welcome to episode 174 of Auto Off Topic. Hello, Brad. How are you?
I am excellent, Andrew. How are you today?
Good. Merry Christmas, by the way.
Yes, this is our first post-Christmas episode.
Yep, I got those Hot Wheels 850s you sent me,
Excellent. I know you were having a hard
and
time finding those.
I still have not found any anywhere. In fact, I was at Target before Christmas, like I think it was the day before Christmas Eve, and I mean, absolutely just decimated Hot Wheels cars.
Right.
But I think we've mentioned this before in prior holiday episodes that a Hot Wheels car makes a perfect stocking stuffer. So I think,
Yeah, the aisles are usually cleared pretty quickly.
yeah,
But I've always found that if you time it right, they wind up refilling them a lot too. So you do get a good chance of finding some good stuff
that's what I was hoping.
around Christmas time. Yeah. I didn't buy them all because I don't need them all. I bought enough for a couple of friends and myself, but I've probably found 25, 30 of those Volvos.
Maybe they're just not
So
as popular where you are. I don't know. It's weird.
yeah, I don't know. It's strange to me too. But I just did have a good Hot Wheels hunting trip because I found one of the other brands of 164 scale cars they made by the company called M2.
Mm-hmm.
They have chase cars on top of their regular cars, and
Oh.
you'll see on the top of the package it'll say like one of 5,000 or one of 7,000. But they have their chase cars that are one of 750,
Oh.
and they're worth like $30 or so if you find one. Um, but I found one here of the um, Hakasuka Skyline GTR, the chase version of it.
Right.
So that's pretty neat.
And I think you just got generally more stores.
Yes, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I remember when I first moved out here, I put Walmart into the GPS to see where the local one was, and I was shocked by the fact that there are probably, I don't know, 15 of them within 5 square miles of
I
here.
know, but the population is there to support it. And then I got
Yeah, yeah.
the,
Population is very dense in the center of town here, so
and then you sent me the Japanese touring car Accord, the Jax Accord.
I did.
What brand was that?
The Tarmac
Tarmac
works.
Works, right? Yeah, we've talked about those before.
Actually, is it Tarmac, or is it an Inno? Might be an INNO.
Ooh, I don't know. It's downstairs in the studio, so I can't look at it.
Oh, that's right. You're recording upstairs, aren't you?
Yep.
I think I'm going to look it up real quick because I don't want to be wrong on it. Because they're the new brand of 164 scale super highly detailed cars.
Well, I know. Yeah, and Tarmac Works has been doing a bunch of those because like they had a bunch of Evo 10 releases, and they are
Yep.
super nice. Like they're very scale 164s.
Okay, so the one I got you was the Inno 64, the INNO
Mm-hmm.
64, and they make the Honda Accord JACCS um, JTCC car. So Jax was a sponsorship. I think it's an oil company in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And JTCC, obviously the Japanese Touring Car Championship. But that was the same series that had the PIAA Accord and some of the other pretty iconic of the era Accord race cars. It was kind of like the European touring cars, but in Japan.
Right.
So the new line of INNO models, INNO 64 models, is even nicer than the Trimax Work stuff. So if you took that package apart and like opened the package and looked at it, like take the clear cover off and like look at the car really closely,
Yeah.
it has like photo etched Honda emblems and stuff on it.
Oh, really?
Like the car is super nice. They're also doing Evos now, and I have a couple of their Evos too. They have Evo threes. I have a red one. I have a yellow one and a race car version. So I'll have to get some pictures together. I haven't taken any pictures in a while
Yeah, they're
of scale stuff.
it's funny because they're, when you look at like a Hot Wheels, it's like a Hot Wheels scale, right?
Yep.
And then there's actual 164 scale, and then when you see them really detailed up, you're like, wow, it's pretty impressive.
So Hot Wheels scale is 3-inch scale,
Okay.
which means nothing other than all the cars are somewhere in the realm of 3 inches long to fit in a standard package.
Yep.
So they're not any kind of actual scale.
Yeah.
So that's the big difference. Whereas these cars here are all done to exact 1/64 scale.
Mm-hmm.
So and they're super ridiculously detailed. Like I said, I'll have to get some more pictures taken of the new INNO 64 Evos. And actually, I also have recently picked up the Tomica Limited Vintage Evolutions. They did an Evo um, 4, 5, and 6. So I have those, and I have picked up the um, Tomica Limited Vintage Second Gen Montero as well.
Cool.
So I have a few things to snap some shots of to put on the Instagram page, maybe.
And we also got Stephanie and I got the Drive coffee you sent us. That stuff was pretty good. I drank the first one. It was Trophy, and it's like,
Okay, that's one I had like the camel trophy truck on it.
yeah, well, like a Land Rover on it,
Okay,
and
yep,
it's like an oil can, but
yeah,
actually,
it's really neat packaging.
it makes a lot of sense to like, because you can. We weren't able to dump all the coffee beans into the grinder, so then you could just seal it back up by spinning the cap back on, instead of
Yep,
like a coffee bag that you have to try to roll up so they stay fresh.
yeah, I thought that was kind of a neat way to get a Christmas gift for the two of you guys that was both car related and not, so you both could enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and now that the what was the name of the other one we had? Was it Beeline or
Beeline.
B? Yeah, Beeline Coffee is no longer in existence. These guys are the other automotive themed coffee company.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Merry Christmas.
Thank
We
you.
already talked about the T-shirt you got me and whatnot. So
Yep.
I think we did some listener questions. Is that what we want to do this episode about, sir?
Yes.
All
So I was
right.
going to start on Instagram, and I'll go from.
Now we put a picture of your car up as the picture,
Yep.
just to have a picture, and just if anybody is interested, his car is for sale.
Oh yeah, we'll get
So
to
if you
that.
want, yeah.
We'll get to that in detail.
All right. So if you're looking for a WRX, stay tuned.
Yeah. So throttle by cable. I've been a Matchbox guy forever. Lately, though, Hot Wheels has really stepped up. What would you like them to put out into production? Now, I'm not really sure what's the. To me, I don't know. There was never much difference between Matchbox and Hot Wheels, but apparently there is, right?
So Matchbox cars, as a general rule, especially when we were younger, were always more realistic, and Hot Wheels cars were always more hot rods or fantasy cars. Um, there was a big shift in the early 2000s where Matchbox cars were mostly fantasy cars. And now they're all kind of coming around again. And Hot Wheels has done a lot more actual scale-ish real cars now, not just fantasy cars and hot rod cars.
Yep.
So he's right. Hot Wheels has really stepped their game up as far as ones that you want to collect and look at on a shelf versus play with kids, nieces, nephews, grandkids, whatever. Um, and as far as what I'd like to see them come up with, Hot Wheels has been doing a bunch of vintage Japanese cars lately,
Right.
but the problem is they've done like 10 Nissans
Yeah.
and 8 Hondas, which is cool because it's a genre that hasn't been done before, but they haven't branched out. There's been a couple of Mazdas they've done,
Yeah.
but it's mostly Nissans and Hondas. I'd like to see some more Toyotas, more Mitsubishis, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hold my breath on Mitsubishis, but I mean I think there's a market for a Starion. I think that would make a saleable Hot Wheels car.
Yeah. Especially
Um,
because
I,
people made them out of the 8086 car.
yeah, people have customized the other Hot Wheels to look like them, but I think there's a market for that. They just came out with a Porsche 944, which is pretty scale and pretty good,
Oh, that's cool.
um, and that kind of would go along in the same genre as a Starion, same era, same body lines. So
There's
um,
a 22B Impreza. That's pretty cool.
there is that just came out. There's a second gen RX-7 coming out this year.
Oh, cool.
So I mean, honestly, without asking for them to make anything, they've done a pretty good job making most things that I would want a copy of. Just they need to be a little more variety in
Hmm.
manufacturers. So I don't think we need any more Nissans for a while because they literally have, a first gen Sylvia up through an S15 Sylvia,
Yeah.
and they have multiple 510s and Datsun pickups, and there's a Datsun 610 pickup,
Yep.
and then Matchbox did an earlier Datsun pickup, and there's a Datsun Roadster, and I just think that it's cool. They're doing a lot of Datsuns, but there needs to be a little more variety. If I had to be nitpicky, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. They're recognizing that there's a market for these cars now, and they're making them. So that's all we can really ask for. So,
Yeah, I like the Mazda casting. I just got that recently. That looks pretty good.
which one's that?
Sorry, the Miata.
The Miata, the new Miata casting. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's neat because they made it a little bit of a hot rod.
Yeah,
Like it's got a little roll bar in it. It's got like the
exactly.
R package lips. It's a neat one. So I have a couple of those. They make a red one so far
Mm-hmm.
and a blue one, I
Yep.
think. And there's a green one that was only sold at GameStop.
Random.
Well, they used to have deals with Kmart,
Right.
and Kmart is gone.
Uh huh.
So now they have exclusive cars for GameStop.
Okay.
So
I don't.
it's
Yeah, GameStop
it's
is a
not
weird
it's not
store.
convenient for me to go to GameStop to look at Hot Wheels cars though. So I
How
don't
is that store still exist?
right, especially in the world of downloaded games.
Yeah.
And in fact, I was even trying to when I was trying to buy the game Wreckfest,
Right.
I went to a GameStop and I couldn't get the game at a GameStop.
Yeah, they don't even have all the stuff. Like,
Yeah,
what is the point
yeah.
of this video game only store if you don't have everything? I'll just buy stuff online and download games. Like, doesn't that make
So I
sense?
don't download a lot of games because I don't have a
Takes a long
huge hard
time.
drive.
Yeah.
And I don't have a huge hard drive in my Xbox. Um, that's my own fault for having the lighter end Xbox, I guess. But I went to a GameStop and I was like, "Hey, I need this game Wreckfest. Do you have it?" And she's like, "No, we don't have it." I was like, "All right, is there a local store that has it?" Because again, like Walmart's, there's a pretty dense selection of GameStops in the area. But the one that had it was like an hour and a half away. And I was
What?
like, "Oh, do you guys do like ship to store?" And she's like, "No, we can't do that." I was like, "Oh, that's annoying." So I kind of forgot about it for a couple of days, and I had to go pick up some stuff at another store one night on the way home. And Naomi actually asked me to stop at a specific Walmart, so I did, and she had actually bought it for me, and it was waiting in the pickup area. So that was cool of her.
Oh,
So I
cool.
did get it, but Walmart had it in stock. So which is
Cool.
annoying because it's Walmart, and we keep supporting Walmart instead of other places. But I
Well,
tried. I tried, man. I
I
tried.
mean, GameStop's a big company too. It's not.
Yeah, that's true. It just seems that
It's
it's
either Amazon or Walmart
yeah. I mean, you're right. Unfortunately,
or Target.
I don't think it's our fault, but it's definitely consumers' fault.
Yeah. Um. All right.
Next
Al-
question.
Alex Stadel. Which Evo was best Evo? This is hard.
It depends on what you're defining as best.
Um. I would break it up into um
Highest
like
performing Evo was probably what the Evo 9 MR.
yeah. But I'd break it up in like early, mid, late.
Okay,
So like
so early would be 1 through 3 with
yep.
the engine situation with the timing belt
Time
on the left side.
on the left hand side, yeah.
Okay, and then
Um
middle would be still
four to I would say four to 6,
4 to 6,
and then because it's like a body style
or four
change.
4 to 7, or 4 to 9 would be
No,
middle.
no, no. I'm going by actual body style change. So
Yeah,
a 1 through 3 is basically the same platform.
then it's going to be 4 generations then,
So
or
four
four.
through yeah, I'm getting there. 4 through 7. Sorry, 4 through 6 would be one platform. 7 through 9 was a platform, and then 10 was its own thing.
Right.
Um, if you, I like the tens because I had one. I think they were good cars,
I don't dislike the tens. I think the 10 lost a little bit of the raw edge of an Evo, but it was still a good car. It,
and
it
it
was a
lost
lot a
out.
lot more refined.
It was like I've said before, right car, wrong economy.
Yeah,
Had
what came
the
out in '08. Yeah,
had the economy not crashed in '08 when the car came out, it probably would have been a lot more successful. I feel it was it was just bad timing, unfortunately.
Yep.
But
And
so
again, it wasn't a bad car. It was a lot more. It was a lot more refined. It was a lot more car than every Evo before it.
it was a very good car in 2008. It
Yep.
was a very old car in 2015 when they stopped making it.
Yeah. Also in 2015, when they could no longer sell it with Recaro seats because they didn't have airbags in them.
They
That
did have
also,
airbags in them.
or
That's
they
the
didn't,
crazy thing.
or
I
they
forget.
didn't. I thought it was an airbag thing was the issue.
No, there was airbags in them. They had side
Oh,
impact airbags. It was some weird thing, and I don't remember what it was. I just pushed it out of my brain because it was so stupid. But yeah, the last ones you could buy had just regular Lancer seats.
yeah, it was pretty lame.
Okay, so best Evo, I like threes, sixes, and a 9 and 10.
Okay, so I have a soft spot for the eight.
Yeah,
Obviously because I owned one. But my thing about the eight is it's the last one before there were any electronic controls. So it's all mechanical diffs front to rear.
it.
There's no super SYC or all those AAYC or all those things. Um, Not that they're bad. I'm just using that as a point of where the car went from 100% mechanical to a little more complicated.
Yeah, I think the US O3s though didn't have mechanical front diffs. They were just an open diff,
It
if I
was an
remember
open
correctly.
front diff, yes.
Yeah, it was just kind of lame
Yeah, but I mean, I never noticed it.
because the STI in that year had a limited slip in the front, which was cool.
Was there an O3 SDI?
Well, the that generation STI.
Right, but that Evo the next year when the STI came here also had a limited slip in the front. So only the O3s didn't have the limited slip front. I'm pretty sure because then they got the they call it the Super All Wheel Control SWAWC or whatever,
Hmm.
and that had the tarmac, snow, gravel modes and everything in the center diff. So
Yep.
I personally like the O3s only because I had one and because they were the simplest of the simple of the cars we got here. I think my favorite Evo of all time is a good mix between the two and the three because they're the lightest, simplest chassis, but have the most Evo styling to them. So the three would be my personal choice, but I wouldn't turn down a nice two either or a nice one. But I think three is the ideal car. If I was going to import a car that wasn't a super special one like a Tommy Mackinnon edition, I would import a three.
Yeah, I want a six Tommy Mackin edition.
Yeah, unfortunately, those are very expensive,
Yep.
whereas the rest of them are not nearly as expensive.
Hmm.
You can
All
import
right.
an early a one through three into this country for sub 20 grand. Um,
Yep.
the Tommy Mackinnon edition cars are already special, and they're already. I've seen them with low kilometers on them for 50, 60 grand already. So they're already very expensive.
An FTO might be an interesting car
They
if
are.
they're inexpensive enough.
Yeah, I don't think they're ever going to be as much as the Evos. They probably will be pretty cheap. But I think the problem with the FTO is going to be a lot of harder to get parts because that was a low production car worldwide,
Hmm.
whereas the Evo is based on a Mirage Lancer.
Yep.
So a lot of the simple stuff is simple to get, and then a lot of the mechanical stuff was shared over generations, and they made many, many, many of them across the world, just not here. So I don't know. I wouldn't turn down a nice FTO, but I really want an Evo 3.
Hmm.
That's the one for me. So if I had to say which Evo is best Evo, I would say Evo 3 for me.
Yep. All right. Paul's finest hour. Which K car to brave a winter rally like Snowdrift in Mitsubishi Minica, Dangan ZZ, or Subaru Vivio RX-R?
I think either of them is a bad choice, but I don't think it really matters.
Yeah. Um, I'm trying to think of what they look like.
Well, the Mitsubishi Dangan is the one that I drove in Brookline. Remember the little black one?
Oh, so they're like little miniature boxes.
Yeah, like a Honda City kind of shape,
Okay.
or a Suzuki Alto works, like the stuff that we used to drive in Gran Turismo back in the day.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
I mean,
I think you'd have a bad time, uh, because it would just they're not very fast.
they're not very fast. They don't have much ground clearance, um, and there's not a lot of parts available for them if you're driving one in a rally.
Yeah,
Um, I would just go ahead and say the Mitsubishi, just because of who we are and who I am.
yeah. I like the spirit of this question, but
There's not a
I'm gonna
good
pull
answer
it
for it.
apart.
Yeah,
There's not a good answer for it. Um,
the best car
all
for a
right.
rally is the same thing that everybody else drives, so therefore you can just share parts.
Basically,
Yeah, if there's a reason everybody has an Impreza or a Mark II Volkswagen.
pretty much. Yeah, Mark II, Mark III now. So you just
Yeah,
pick one of those three things.
yeah, because the problem
Uh,
is it's cool, and I love seeing weird, different stuff in rallies. But the problem is they never finish because when parts break, they don't have other competitors running the same car to have enough spares.
and people
So
haven't figured everything out already.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I would just run a Mark II Volkswagen. It's not much bigger than a Mitsubishi Minica anyway.
Right. All right. Speaking of rallying, Downy Dirty Racing asks, uh, so he says Stafford Springs Winter Challenge Rally. So for those who don't know, so Stafford Springs is the first rallycross event of the New England region of the season. It's in Stafford Springs, Connecticut. It's a 2 day rallycross. Two separate events on Saturday and Sunday, but they combine it to make a 2 day event. Um, it's a pretty big event. I haven't been in a while. Um,
I've been in
if
years.
I, if I'm around, I might come down and I'll hang out and go for some rides, but I can't run it right now. I just don't have the time to commit an entire day to running it. Um, and Winter Challenge, I'm on the fence on that. Maybe that is the John Buffum Run TSD in the middle of the night in northern Vermont in the middle of winter, and it's like the most epic TSD that you can possibly do. It's a total throwback to the way they were run in the 60s and 70s. Um, if you ran that in a
It's pretty much a '70s '80s stage rally.
basically,
Yeah.
um, if you ran that in a Minica Dangan, then yeah, I give you a lot of respect for that because it's like I think it's usually like 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. So you're 12,
Yeah, it's something
yeah,
along
you're
those
12
lines.
hours in a car, and there's literally, I remember because there's literally like an hour of daylight, and the rest of the entire time it's in the middle of the night, um,
Yep.
and it can totally vary. There's been years that we did it where it wasn't that snowy. There
It,
was some ice,
or it's 40 and raining.
yeah, and it was like there was one that was negative 14. We
Yep.
did one in the middle of a snowstorm. Um, it's pretty wild. It's definitely if you're in the area and you have like you need like a little bit of TSD experience. Don't make it your first one. Maybe like your second or third one, you'd be all right if you go in with a good idea. Like,
Yeah, certainly don't make it your first
yeah,
one.
your first one, you'll be like, "What is going on?" Because it's totally different from any other TSD. Like, there's a section,
It's different. It's different, but having the experience will help.
yeah. So there's a section that is like a normal TSD, and then there's a section that is purely like map and then purely directions. And the map reading one is literally you're just following a line on a map, and this is typically like the last section, and it's 1:30, 2:30 in the morning. You're super tired, and like the car's bouncing around, and you're trying to read this map and tell the driver where to go. It's kind of like nerve-wracking. So if you can get through this too without killing each other, there you go.
So both of us have crashed and gotten stuck on this rally before. So it's kind
I
of
Oh yeah, I guess I crashed and got stuck once.
yeah, you got crashed into a snowbank.
Yeah, yeah.
And just because you didn't crash into a wall doesn't mean you didn't
No, no, I
crash.
forgot about that part. I was like, no, no, no.
Yeah,
I've only been in a car that's. I
yeah.
was,
Well, actually, no. So let me take that back. I've never actually crashed a car during this, but I have been in a car that went pretty far off the road.
Yeah.
Um, we went through a snowbank that was door handles high, and through a barbed wire fence. So it wasn't good.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's not
No,
simple. Put it that way.
no. And a lot of TSDs will be run. They'll tell you at the beginning, no traps. This one has traps. There's
Yep.
gimmicks. Um, yeah. It's
There'll be covered signs.
yep.
There'll be uh, directions designed to confuse you.
Hmm.
It's kind of like an escape room. You got to try to figure your way out of the map
Yeah.
without being stuck in a room.
Yeah. There'll be wordplay in the direction, and
Yeah.
you're like, what? And you're tired. You're trying to figure this out. It's crazy, right? Um, but all right. Anyway, next question. The underscore knife underscore W1 Zard.
The knife wizard.
um, why didn't Europe get turbo eclipses? Why did they even bother importing them? I don't know. Good question. You get any more insight on that?
I don't have any insight on why they didn't. The only thing I could think of is possibly it's a fuel quality thing, maybe.
Could be.
But I don't understand either because BMWs and stuff all run on premium. Um, why they bother importing them? Because the non-turbo Eclipse is still a good car.
Yeah.
I think when people hear non-turbo Eclipse, their brain automatically goes to a second-gen Chrysler-powered non-turbo Eclipse,
Or
or even an early 1.8 liter single
yeah.
overhead cam non-turbo
Yep.
Eclipse. Um, the non-turbo Eclipses that Europe got, which my car is still a 4G63 car. So it's still a 2 liter twin cam. It's like 150, 160 horse. It's not super underpowered.
Which
Um,
so that's the other thing. So if it's like 150, 160, the turbo car
yeah,
was only 190, 195.
yeah,
It wasn't that much
yeah.
more.
It's not that much more, and you only notice it at higher revs.
Hmm.
So coming off the line, because obviously being a early '90s turbo car, those cars have lag anyway.
Yeah.
So it feels almost the same in initial acceleration. It just runs out higher in the rev range because it doesn't have that turbo pushing more power through. But once the car is revved out, it's fine. So I've taken the car on a bunch of back roads out here. I mean, I drove the car across country. I've driven all over the place, and I don't find myself wanting more power because a front wheel drive car with too much power is torque steering mess anyway. So I would never say that the car is going to go out and win a drag race because it's not, but it's a very entertaining car. It kind of feels, I don't know if the Knife Wizard's ever driven a Miata. I'm pretty sure he has, but it kind of has that same power to weight ratio as like a Miata. So you can have fun with it in the twisties. You can have fun with it on ramps. You can have fun with it around town. You can squirt in and around traffic with it pretty efficiently. You just don't expect it to be, plant your back into the seat kind of acceleration. It's fun to drive. It's got enough torque to be entertaining down low, and it revs quick enough to be entertaining when like banging gears and like mountain pass kind of roads. So I don't think there's any problem with the car. I don't I've never owned a front wheel drive turbo version. I've only ever owned the all wheel drive turbo version. Um, but I don't find myself wanting a turbo in it. So everybody keeps saying, "Oh, are you gonna put a turbocharger in the car?" No, unless something catastrophic happened to the engine that was in there, maybe I'd put a turbo in it. But as far as it goes, as far as it stands, I have no issue driving that car with no turbo. A 4G63 naturally aspirated is actually a pretty neat little motor. So
Dare I say, slow car fast?
yeah, I mean it's definitely a good way to describe it. I mean that's how you describe a Miata, and I just compared it to that kind of driving experience. I mean, obviously a Miata is more pure, being a lightweight top down rear wheel drive, with the schnickety schnick transmission. But it's a fun car to drive. Um, with the right set of tires, the right setup, it's not It's not a big deal. I don't miss the turbo. Maybe there was just no competition for that car in Europe that they needed to put a turbo in it.
Yeah, maybe.
There was no reason to spend the money. They just spent a simple car over there. Maybe there was an emissions thing they couldn't meet with the turbo. Who knows?
Well, maybe.
But
Yeah, I think what you're saying. Yeah, I when you're saying competition, I bet there wasn't a lot of European hot hatches that were turbo at the time.
no, I mean, think about 1990 when they started importing them. Yeah, the Volkswagen was a 16 valve, twin cam engine. The Peugeots were like the 1.6, the 1.9. Those weren't turbos. Those are the kind of cars that it would be competing against. So maybe they just thought, hey, this is fine. Maybe it would be competing against like an E30, non M3, and that would be a non turbo car. There's not really a lot of that kind of stuff there. The only turbo cars that they had there would have been higher end stuff,
Yeah,
944 turbos and stuff like that. But that wasn't. And Mitsubishi sold Starions over there with turbos.
yeah,
So I don't know. I don't know why they did it, but again, to reiterate my point, I don't miss the turbo having the car. Not every car needs to be a drag race car. Not every car needs to be super powerful. Um, you just need to know what it is and enjoy it for what it is. So I think if I didn't have other turbocharged cars, maybe I'd be like, oh, I wish this car was turboed. But I think as an experience for what it is, it's going to stay the way it is. So it makes it interesting. You can hear the engine a lot more too because there's no turbo noise.
hmm,
There's no turbo. I don't know. It's just I think a 4G63 NA car is an interesting car to own, and it's not something that a lot of people ever have owned because
right.
there aren't that many. So other than some Galant GSs and Eclipse GSs, there haven't been a lot of applications for a twin cam 4G63 with no turbo, have there?
Galant GSX,
I was say the Galant GS, Galant GSX,
Galant AMG.
and yeah, I mean in this country, I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, yeah, not much.
So yeah, the two Galants and the Eclipse GS. I mean that's really it.
Yeah,
Everything else had 4G64 single cams or 4G63 turbos.
you had non-turbo Hyundai's with the 4G63.
That's true. I wasn't even thinking of other manufacturers. But anyway, I have no problem with it. I don't know why they did it. I don't have the exact answer of why they did it. But I enjoy driving the car, and that's all that matters to me.
I think we had some pretty good theories though. All right, Fuge Rob. Is Brad insufferable with his weather breaking now, or has he not been in Phoenix enough to learn yet how to fully gloat this time of year? I don't know. You don't really rub it in too bad. Every now and
Well,
then.
here's the thing. It's been unseasonably cold
That's
here,
that's what I heard.
and it's been unseasonably warm there.
Yeah.
So I haven't really had a good chance to do that. No. Speaking of the Eclipse, the battery died yesterday.
Right.
So I had to change the battery yesterday, and it was in the low 40s. And as I was changing the battery after dark in the low 40s, I had the very familiar feeling of my fingertips hurting working on things
Right.
because of the cold air. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I feel like I'm back in Massachusetts doing this job.
Yeah.
Like I moved here to avoid this. What's going on?
Yeah. It was like 50 the other
So
night.
yeah, which a Massachusetts 50 is a lot warmer feeling than a Phoenix 40.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the difference is there, but it makes a big difference. I don't know if it's the dry air or what. When it's cold, it's cold. I mean, it was down into the mid 30s last night here. It was not warm. So we actually, and it's been raining a lot this past week here because it's wintertime. So it's actually felt a lot like Massachusetts in say October here the past few days.
Mm-hmm.
So I have not been rubbing it in too much. I have sent a few pictures of car events and stuff that are obviously not going on in Massachusetts now that have probably rubbed it in a little bit. But overall, I'm trying to be not be a jerk about it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, anybody can come out and fly out and visit. It's only $250 to $300 round trip. If you're tired of the snow, tired of the winter, come on out. I'll take you to some car stuff.
Cool. Um, well, I know a few jobs already out there, anyways. So,
Yeah, well, not him specifically because he lives around the corner from me, but I'm saying others,
all right.
people who are still in New England.
Sigma underscore Woodcraft. Uh, when is frame rust too much? What do you guys do when a beloved project has some soft spots, or do you avoid vehicles like that altogether? Well, I think you moved far, far away from it.
So I did, but the problem is I still have the car there that we should have thrown in the trash years ago. That for some reason we haven't. Sigma Woodcraft has, I think, a Pathfinder
Yeah,
that's actually not that rusty. I remember looking at pictures of his compared to other Pathfinders I've seen. When I say Pathfinder, I'm talking about like a what is that body style, like 88, 92 ish. I don't really know. It's like the Nissan hardbody pickup style.
yeah, like the early
Um,
ones.
yeah, and overall his truck is pretty clean. So I think as long as there's no real structural frame rust where the car is going to fall apart driving down the road, and it's not worth $1 million restored, I think that's where I draw the line. And experience has told me that's where I do draw the line because I did throw away that brown Colt
Yep.
because the rust on the body was fairly minimal and it didn't bother me that much. The rust on the floor was pretty significant, but it
The
didn't bother me that
suspension
much because we
trigger
could have just
points.
patched it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the rear suspension mounting points that really gave me pause to say, this is dangerous for me and for anybody else around me on the road. So this car is going in the trash.
Yeah.
So I think as long as nothing important is rotted away, or if what's important that's rotted away isn't easy to fix, because you could argue that a cab mount on a Chevy pickup is very important, but it's an easy fix. Whereas, a unibody car where the rear suspension mounts all are the trailing arm mounts were like the forward trailing arm mounts were pretty toasty. So
Mm-hmm.
it was time to move on. So I think that there's a lot of different factors when deciding whether or not you're going to start with it or not. Um, I think a big factor is how connected are you to the car? Is it a car you've owned for a long time? Is there a reason you want to save it versus just going out and buying a car with the intention of fixing the rust?
Right.
I think that's a big difference. Like that's part of the reason that you'll see pictures of Andrew and I working on that Starion all the time because we bought that car a long time ago, um, and for some reason it's kind of endeared itself to us or to me specifically, and I think you as well. Um, just because it's just a weird car and it did run so well, and it's been an interesting learning tool for us. But I don't think I would buy a car that was that far gone and try to fix it.
No, no, I would never buy a car intentionally, just because we
Yeah.
already have it. I'm like, all right, I'll weld on it. But as as I get older and I can afford a little bit more money for a nicer project car, I'll start with a nicer base
Mm-hmm.
than buying a full. Like I would never buy a basket case car. There's some people that
I,
do it, and that's their prerogative. That's like they get joy out of buying
yeah.
a box of parts and putting a car together from it. But
Yep.
I have no desire to do that.
Well, you and I have both learned that you can get a car shipped from pretty much anywhere in the world for less than $2,000.
Right.
So $2,000 does not go far when it comes to time and materials when fixing a car. So if you can get a car from a rust-free area for less than 2 grand shipped, you're probably better off.
And then it depends on what you're into. Are you into just the act of the build, the act of doing this repair? Is that what you're interested in? Me personally, I like it a little bit, but I don't want to I don't want to consume years restoring a car, welding on individual pieces. I would be interested in doing like some little welding here and there and patching it up, but I'd rather have a rolling restoration, something I can drive.
Yeah.
I don't want a box of parts to put together. That's
Yep.
just my opinion.
Yep. I totally agree. And a lot of that might also come from our personal situations. Like if I had unlimited indoor garage space,
Even
maybe it
with
would be
that, I
different.
wouldn't do it.
Well, I'm saying maybe it would be different to have a more ambitious project off in the corner that you could just pick away from time to time, but you still have that toy fun car that does run, does drive. I don't think I'd
Yeah,
want to have like my everyday driver and a serious project and not have some interesting old car to drive around in.
yeah. You just don't want to be that guy in the yard when you're like, people are like, "Hey, you want to sell that thing?" You're like, "No, I'm gonna get to it someday." And it's just in, it's just
I
in
mean,
pieces.
I kind of am that guy.
All right. Well, sort of.
I'm trying to fix myself. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
We're trying to fix things. The Galant is really the only one left that's that bad. So
Yeah. All right. Yeti Overland. When will the WRX have a fatal rust incident? Also, was it crazy to use 9 to 10 cans of fluid film on my new Project Tundra? Am I at the point of buying it by the gallon and using a spray gun? Well, I fixed all the structural rust that was dangerous on the Subaru. It's just cosmetic.
yeah, that's exactly what we were just talking about. Like that particular car now, I would drive across country and not worry about.
Yeah, I mean, last year I drove to Cleveland, so that was pretty far. And I was driving at 100 miles a day, basically. It's simply, and speaking of fluid film, I did put fluid film inside the rear quarters, and that did seem to slow down the quarter panel rot a bit. Um, Except the bottom of the fenders are gone. But fenders are not structural; they can just be bolted on, so it's not a big deal that they're
Right.
rusty. And
It could be argued that the part of the quarter panel that's rusted is also not
it's
structural
not
because
the
there's the
outer.
inner quarter panel, which is in perfect shape, the inner wheel wells, which are in perfect shape. It's just that outer skin by the bumper where every Subaru has some
Hmm.
rust. Every New England Subaru,
Yeah,
anyway.
so it's better than a wagon. The wagons had really bad of that generation where the strut towers would just blow through.
Yep.
Um, and actually, the tops of I've seen a couple sedans with the top of the strut towers have gone through, but this car is solid up top there. So
Yeah, yours are mint up top for sure.
um,
Yeah, everywhere that's important in that car is structurally fine. The frame rails are great. The floors are great. Suspension mounts are fine. There's no issues with that car.
now fluid film, I have found I like the spray cans actually. I find they're easier to use. I do have a gallon of it, and I have the gun. But if you don't have a lift and you're just trying to, because it kind of gets everywhere. So we don't really want to do it on my dad's lift. We might do a couple of cars, but we got to put down drop cloths everywhere because it's going to get everywhere. But if you just want to do it out in the yard on like ramps and you're on your back doing it, um, it's nice because it's non toxic. So, like, you can just
Yeah.
wear safety glasses and some old clothes. And um,
I mean, it's borderline edible. So
yeah, like your hands are going to be nice and like smooth and soft. Um,
yeah,
but
for
yeah,
days.
it's just kind of a pain though to like shoot it upside down with the. It's basically an undercoating gun.
Yep.
It just has a giant tip on it, and the stuff's like really gooey. And I did the Montero last year, um, and it worked pretty well. But then I ended up using like the aerosol can with the 360 tip to actually get inside the frame rails. So I don't know. It's kind of like you maybe use the gallon, but also have the spray cans and the 360 tip.
Yeah. And there's no shame in having a shop professionally undercoat your car either because it is a messy job and they can do it pretty efficiently and for the money it costs, I still prefer that method.
Yeah,
As far as far as him being crazy by undercoating his vehicle, absolutely not.
no.
Yeah, I mean, where Colorado is not nearly as um, rusty of an area as Massachusetts, they use a lot less road salt out there.
Hmm.
There's a lot less days that require road salt out there, so it's not as much of an issue, I'm sure. But yeah, I see no reason not to coat the bottom of a car, almost no matter where you live.
Stuff definitely works. Definitely slows it down. Um, Even like I don't drive the Montero in the salt, but like just it's just damp. It's just humid, so it just helps.
Yeah, any bare metal, any fasteners, they all uh, they all wind up in better shape because of it. So, moving on to Facebook questions, Andrew.
Yep.
Justin Hughes has a related question to the last question. What is your preferred method of road treatment against icing? Then he says, hey, you asked for salty questions. He's not wrong.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I guess in Arizona they use ash or pumice.
Volcanic
Yeah.
ash and
And
sand,
sand.
both combination of the two. Yep. Actually, there was a sand truck out the other day when we were out on Christmas Eve. We were north of the city where it's a little colder. And there was a sand truck we saw on the side of the road. Nope, sorry, it was Christmas Day. We saw a sand truck because we were way north of the city up in Prescott, Arizona, where it's a much higher elevation and it gets colder and it was raining. So there was a sand truck out for added traction. But that's not a big deal because sand is not caustic.
Yeah, and there is occasionally you'll see something like some people are kind of realizing that putting that much salt down on the ground is not great for the environment. So, well,
No, and I actually just saw an article about that the other day. That there were some scientists that didn't really realize the amount of salt that Massachusetts puts down,
yeah,
and they were mortified by it.
I mean, it gets into every like the grass in front of my house is dead like year round.
Yep.
Um, and then it gets into soaks into groundwater. It's just like it's a bad scene. It ruins infrastructure if it manages to leach into bridges and reinforced concrete with rebar. It will corrode the rebar, and then the rebar expands and crumbles the concrete. Um,
Yep.
it kind of It's just not. I don't know. It's not good. The,
Not to mention that it gets into all the rivers and stuff around here too.
the short term benefits do not. I don't feel that they uh, are worth the long term damage that it does to everything. It does to infrastructure and to people's cars
Yeah, and that's not
and
just
the
talking as
environment.
a
No,
salty car enthusiast. That's talking as a general person who's concerned about the environment. It's not good.
no, no. It's very annoying. It just generally gets everywhere. But it's also like I want to take the dog for a walk. Oh wait, I can't because it hasn't rained, and the salt will just burn his paws. So there's also that.
So yeah, the preferred method would be sand or ash or whatever naturally occurring non-caustic
I
substances
think
are attraction
we've
aids.
talked about this many times. I think somebody told us Wisconsin uses like cheese brine, which is still kind of
Yep,
salty, but it's from
but less so.
yeah, it's from
Yeah,
cheese. All right. Jeremy Nutt says, "Imagine you live in Massachusetts. Would you rather have a
should be
lift in your garage or heat slash insulation? You cannot have both." Now,
should be a stretch for you to pretend you live in Massachusetts.
well, this is an interesting question because my dad did have a lift in his garage before we insulated and heated it.
Yep.
Um, but I'm going to go out and say, if you have an insulated and heated garage, I'd rather have that over one with a lift because
Yep.
having a warm, dry place to work on a car, even if you've got to do it on jack stands, so much better than having to do it in the cold, in my opinion.
Yeah. There's zero question what the right answer is there, and it's heat first.
Yeah, because you can do
While a lift is nice,
yeah,
but think about all the things you need to do with a lift. Most of them can be done on the floor.
with jack stands, and if you're
Yep.
not freezing, it's way more comfortable. Oh my gosh!
Yep.
So
Yep. Nope. I agree. 100% heat
I know
insulation.
he recently built a garage, so if he's considering which one to spend money on first, I would do heat and insulation
Mhm.
because if he keeps his eye out, he might be able to pick up a used lift somewhere.
Well, here's the thing: you're going to be way more productive if you're comfortable.
Exactly.
And in Massachusetts, you're going to be way more productive if you can work on a car 12 months out of the year.
Exactly.
So the couple hours you could save here and there by having a lift is not going to outweigh the benefits of having access to using the garage all the time.
Yeah. Because you're just going to end up in there with the lift running like one of those propane blower heater things, anyways.
And you got to be miserable.
Yeah.
No, don't do it.
All right. You want to read this one or you want me to read
Do you want to read it at all?
it? It's kind of,
So, Jordan Mellum, do you guys think it's weird you both own all of the exact same cars? Why are you two so weird together? I'll hang up and listen.
now,
Hold on, I have a point to make
His
with Jordan here.
household has multiple Volkswagens,
Yep,
multiple Volvos,
yep, and an MG.
multiple Mini Coopers,
Yep.
modern Mini Coopers.
So I would like to turn this question around on him.
Yeah,
So two of Jordan's cars are a black Subaru SDI
yeah.
and a silver Volvo 240. Both of those cars are cars that you owned before he did. So why, and not those specific ones, but you had a black SDI and a silver 240. So why is Jordan owning the exact same cars as you?
And actually,
Why is he biting your style?
if I hadn't owned that STI, I wouldn't know him.
Right. So his life would be that much better.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're not weird.
Um,
Don't make it weird.
is it weird we have all the same cars?
We don't
So,
really have all the same cars.
well, a couple.
We do.
So
But is it
you,
weird if you hang out with a bunch of enthusiasts of certain cars?
well, here's the thing, because I bought a Talon, and you're like, that's a neat car, and then I bought another Talon, and you're like, I kind of want that car, so I sold it to you.
Yeah.
That's not weird. And then because we're into the Talons, you're like, oh, this Galant that has the same driveline, you're really neat. I kind of want that, so you bought it. And then another one happened to come up for a decent deal that it happened to be the same color as yours. I didn't. There was no like intent to buy the same car as you. I just we both now happen to own white Talons. I mean, white Gallants.
There's only 3 colors, so it wasn't, the odds were pretty good.
Right. And then I think he's also talking about your newest purchase,
Yeah.
which we haven't discussed here yet. Um, but it's very similar to my newest purchase.
Yeah.
So I think that just comes down to it's 2019. There's not a ton of practical enthusiast vehicles on the market.
No.
So you're going to wind up being in the same basic genre when buying a vehicle for a daily use. So, and it's not exactly the same as mine.
No.
It just it doesn't even have the same name
No.
actually.
All right. So, on that salty
So I
question.
mean, we're weird anyway. That's beside the
Yeah.
point. That's why we have an automotive podcast. That's why we hang out with Jordan and his merry band of shitboxes. I
Yep.
mean, because they fit in well with our merry band of shitboxes. So
Exactly.
it all kind of goes together.
Yep.
So, but yes, we do have. Well, we also had first gen Monteros at the same time too.
I had mine first.
Yeah, but then mine was almost free from a junkyard. Was there
Whatever.
anything else? Yeah, whatever. I don't care. Listen, we've known each other for almost our entire lives, so it just makes sense that our tastes will align. I guess
It's fine. It's fine.
it's
We're fine.
fine.
Okay.
Nobody ever called us out on it until now.
No.
So, and again, he has a black STI and a silver 240 after you did.
Yeah.
So he's copying you technically.
All right.
And
then.
actually, I had a Mark II Volkswagen before, so he's copying me on that too.
All right. So for this is the last episode of 2019. It's been a very good year. Thank you for all. It's been a very good year for the podcast. Thank you for all for listening. And we're gonna head on out and record another episode.
Before we leave, is there anything that you plan on doing in 2020 that you want to announce here on the air
I'm gonna save that for the next episode.
for the first episode of the new year?
That's right.
All right, I'll let it slide.
All right. Cool. So as always, you can follow us on off
Hold
topic.
on, we got to stop again
Why?
because you did say at the beginning of this episode that there would be more on the Subaru issue.
There will be, and I'm gonna get to that.
I think we should at least say, hey, it's for sale. If you want to buy it, contact Andrew.
Oh, right. Okay.
Because you want to get the advertising out there that, hey, this car is for sale. Get it out of my driveway.
Right. Yes. So my 04 WX is for sale. You can private message me, and I'll tell you all about it. If you're in New England, it's a great New England car because it's already rusted,
Pre-rusted.
and it comes with winter tires on it, so it's ready for the snow.
If you want a better deal, my Saab is exactly the same as that.
All right. Follow us on Facebook on Off Topic Podcast, Auto Off Topic on Instagram. Me, Race and Anger on Instagram. Brad, where can I find you?
TSISS350.
Okay. So, as always, in the last episode of 2019, keep your cars analog and aim for the roses.